So yesterday I finished up this project. The jagged lines and stuff are just in the PDF viewer. They are actually straight when you print them. There is some things about looking and using Edge to look at your PDFs that's a little annoying. You come up with these little note things that wherever you're popping, I guess you could add notes pretty automatically, but it'd be nice if, well, I'm sure there is a setting I could turn it off, but it's not off for now, so those are not anything I'm doing. That is Edge doing that itself. So here in this project for this simple, just a garage, just want to kind of show you some of the highlights and, you know, the rendered image that added just to kind of show what this thing is supposed to look like when it's done. So the contractor actually knows, you know, what the goal is from the onset. And then there's a vicinity map, which helps get materials and stuff to the site. You know, they'll have the address over here, and all that stuff's been removed for the privacy of my client. But nonetheless, there's special symbols I use. Not many of these in this such a small plan, but these are just abbreviations that I use all over the place, such as in here I think there is FF, which finished floor. That sort of thing will be defined so you can look them up. This is how I do all my loading and stuff for here. It was pretty easy. We had header sizes for here, and on the opposite side there's some windows. Then general notes. This is just basically describes some information between myself, the owner, and the contractor. So things like that the rights of the design remain the property of Not Square Design. If the contractor wishes to change anything, there's language in there that he needs to get a hold of me and let me know what those changes are in writing. So that for me these days, that's an email is fine. And then we get a change going, and or just an confirmation back that it's not. We're trying to protect basically structural integrity, life safety, and my phone's going off, but I'll have to get that later. The life safety and then design intent. So once we've got those handled, and we know that those things are preserved, then other sorts of changes, you know, want to change the color, you want to, that sort of stuff's pretty simple. But if he wanted to change, let's say, a header size, this is not a particularly bearing area because it's a gable end, so there's not a lot of force right here. But if it had been, and he for some reason thought that I put too large of a member, didn't understand why, wanted to make that change, then that's the sort of stuff that I want to certainly be informed about. Or anything that's going to change the design intent, what we'll be going for. A lot of my homes are very energy efficient, and they're very comfortable. And so we want to, you know, keep those aspects of all the stuff that we spent probably a year on trying to get to the homeowner specifications to remain within the design itself. So let's just move on, go through the pages real quick, and then we'll be out of here. This one thing on here. These are some websites that I recommend for my clients. Usually they're project specific. I didn't change this up too much because, you know, net zero. I'm not really sure that a garage is going to have too much to do with that. But this actually has a pretty interesting exterior insulation. So it really is pretty efficient because we got a full wrap on the exterior. He plans to heat this with the heat pump and such. So then we've got a site plan. In this case, we did have a sewer line going almost or diagonally across the entire lot. And then we have the architectural notes, which is going to be a lot of stuff more about you know, the types of door handles that have to be installed, automatic release, a lever so that if the garage door opener is not working, you can still manually release it. Sorry, not automatic. Then we have the mailing schedules and the U factors requirements for climate zone 6, which is where this is being built. So I don't show the whole table, just what we need. here are two details, and these are for around the footing of this building. And there's a simpler version, which would probably be plenty adequate for this particular project. And then there is one where when I've got houses that are built into a slope, and we've got a lot of snow up here in Montana, and it's going to build up against that wall. This is just a detail that really helps with some really good drainage. Here's kind of a little added feature, and for a garage this is extensive, but a 3D view of the framing, and then actually a dimensioned layout for the walls and how they're to be put together. And then down here's the floor plan, dimensioned and then labeled to what all the different layers that you're looking at are and how they appear. Here we've got the elevations. Elevations I pretty much consider pretty pictures. And so there's a door and window schedule. Then we've got the electrical layout. And because this is such a small project, usually the electrical layouts look different on my plans where all the electrical stuff is the full darkness, and then all the lines for the walls and any other things like doors, they're kind of grayed out. So the emphasis is on the electrical. It stands out a lot better. But that's a pen style issue for plotting, and so to have the elevations on the same sheet, I had to simply simplify the way this looked, and then so they do look different on my larger plans, a little easier to read, but this is very simple and straightforward. And then the schedule to tell them what all those symbols mean. And then these are the structural notes. This is a full structural note sheet, but it does cover quite a bit of stuff. Notching stuff probably not going to happen, but I've seen stranger things in Montana, where, a truss that was engineered to pretty much be, as simple as we can make it. Somebody went up there and cut a hole in it that was not appropriate. So this is a guide if you do need to cut a hole in a member of how to do it. And then lots of other notes that are associated basically with code through this first part. So these are code references in particular. And then the general structural notes are more kind of a layman explanation in a lot of cases of what a lot of this stuff means and what pertains. Here's the codes I used that are pertinent to this time period for this location. Some information about the project. There's some stuff about execution, and then there's a schedule for chipboard, which in this case is pretty straightforward, unless in the future when he builds a house, he attaches the garage, then that will become quite a factor. Here, we've got just three details. There's not a whole lot to detail out because we have a wall connection for how the truss connects. That's this one here. We need one for where the doors pass through and save some concrete by not pouring that footing all the way through. There's no bearing through there. No reason to dig that full depth, which up here is it's pretty deep because we've got frost depth to hit. And then and I just caught a mistake. So in my story pole, I didn't story pole the frost depth, so I'll have to go and make a correction for the final plan set, which will include the client's name and address and all that. Because here it says to see, or actually this says see design criteria. So when you're seeing design criteria, you want to basically just use that, and it'll tell you the depth reference for frost. And so we need to stay directly with that. Okay, sorry I had a slight interruption there, so hopefully I haven't lost my place too bad, and the end of that was probably a little weird. You guys didn't feel the pause, but I paused it there. So there's the connection. We covered this one at the door opening, and then for the rest of the footing, we do have this standard footing detail. And like I was saying, you see the design criteria to get the depth. So I could add it to the story pole, and I actually just realized that it's see the design criteria. A lot of these tell me to see the section. So it is covered, because in the design criteria, it actually tells the frost depth. So it doesn't need to be redone. These are the bubbles that will tell you that this is this detail. So there's the number and the sheet, number and the sheet, for those of you who haven't done this before. This is a section cut, and here is that cut. So it's through the framing and through the foundation, same location, and this is what you would see. Tell you how to build it. Then, just to show, I run calcs to figure out, what I've got. So these are the garage door headers, and then the door and window headers, same size, on either side of the building. And so that's how I'll come up with the actual sizes that are necessary, instead of going to charts and putting in double headers where they're not required. This is allowed for a single header, even though these Lorch garage doors were so, my highlighter's turned off, they were so big that this 2x8 Doug for Larch number 2 only needs one. So that allows for more insulation behind the header if the owner decides to do so. Other than that, we do have also some Excel spreadsheets. So I'm going to pause and open that software, put it on screen, and we'll take a look at that. So on this buy list, this one is actually the linear list. So it's probably a quick, dirty way to get an estimate on a project, because it's going to give lumber in linear footage. And then there's a lot of other things that are just going to be how many square feet, not an actual necessarily a count on everything. So for the roof trusses, we've got different types, and exterior trim material, how many linear feet to buy of everything, square footage of siding, house wrap, OSB. This actually does give the sheet, and owner requested to upgrade to a 1/2 inch, and so we've got so many square feet of that house wrap. But above that, or below that, with the OSB, it actually does give a number of sheets to purchase. But we'll see in the other lists that I've got, this is what's called a buy list. And if I bring this up into here and we take a look, you can see that you need to buy 2x8 12 footers, 2 of those, and then for each of these different sizes, how many to buy. And it covers everything. Again, the trim, casings, and if you're buying jam extensions for an extra thick wall, that sort of stuff. And then the electrical, all the different types of accessories and stuff that went into this, what types they are, the accounts, and everything really about the project that's in that 3D model is shown here. And then the last type of list that we have is kind of pretty cool for the contractor, because it's actually a cut list. And so it'll say to cut all these members into these certain lengths, and how many of each of those lengths you will need. And a pretty basic, it doesn't tell you exactly what goes in the building, but it gives you some idea that this is for the studs, this is for the plates, be some bridging here, and then there's the headers here, treated fur plate, so this will be the pressure treated material off your list, and on and on. So pretty cool as to the amount of information that, I thought this was kind of funny. I put a pickup in there for scale. So if he needs an excuse to buy a truck, it's on the plan. So anyway, that is what a plan set can look like just for a simple garage. So this is Mark signing off with Not Square Design, and we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for joining me.